Mike Brostoff. I was born the youngest of 4 kids. When I was very young, I received attention unconditionally. Even if I didn't want it, I got it. Consequently, I developed unrealistic expectations of the rest of the world. I was the kid in class who asked a million questions and who always wanted to share every cognition about the material. I always was jealous anytime someone received more attention than myself. If someone didn't give me the attention I expected, then I considered it a rejection. Finally, at the age of 30, I realized I would never get the attention from the rest of the world that I was looking for. So in order to satiate my appetite, I've decided to host my own show on Community Access, where for an hour or half hour, a couple times a month, I am the center of attention. Hi, I'm Mike Brostoff. Welcome to the Center of Attention. And for the next half hour, I am the center of attention. With me today is my friend Eric Gottlieb. Actually, it's Dr. Eric Gottlieb. He recently got his PhD after how many years of work? 4, 5?
10.
10. 10?
Well, just no, for the PhD, 4.
Okay. Anyway, Eric and I have known each other since 3 years old, and as you'll see shortly in this screen behind us, the chroma key, there's a shot of us when we were about 4 years old in 1966, and we'll get to see more of that video roll later on. But anyhow, we've known each other since then. We've gone to grade school, junior high, and high school together, and we've gone through countless many friends, including which you've seen on Community Access very often is the appendages. Eric was in a number of those music videos, and he helped videotape them. And Eric, you just received your PhD in oceanography?
Oh, yes, that's correct, Mike.
There's not much you can do with that question. Anyway, and now you're moving to Rhode Island.
Yes, I was just offered a job in Rhode Island, and I'm pretty happy about that.
What exactly are you going to be doing? Are you primarily research, teaching?
No, I won't be doing any teaching. My position will be research scientist. So all I will have to do is work with data and publish papers, and that will be my primary responsibility.
Which is probably what you'd like to do.
That's what what I would like to do is just teaching alone.
Oh, really?
But there aren't really any jobs where you just teach.
So you prefer that more than research? That surprises me.
I would, but I enjoy research also.
Oh, okay. Because Eric was always, one thing to say growing up with Eric, I remember always trying to get games that a couple people can play, like Voice of the Mummy and Seance.
I remember those.
And all these other games. And Eric always got like Tinker Toys, like games that didn't include other people.
Lego.
Like solitary games. In fact, I remember feeling this big major thing of rejection when we were like 5 years old and he had a babysitter staying with him. And he wouldn't let me come in. He goes, I want to be the only boy here today. It was a female babysitter. And I go, well, no, you only want one boy there. And I go, well, I'll be the one boy. You go, no, that's me. And I remember walking away incredibly crushed and everything. Well, anyway, I want to move now to just talking about our childhood and when we first met. And you'll get to see what we look like when we first met. And when that key comes up, I'll explain it then when it comes up. So, Eric, what do you remember? You've heard me tell the story many times. Do you remember that, when the actual first moment we met?
The first moment we met, I just have, like I said, my memories are like still snapshots.
Okay.
I just have, and no, I don't really remember if anything was, we could talk back then, but
yeah, we were verbal.
I really don't.
We were 3 years old, so we did have some verbal abilities. And I don't remember you as being nonverbal at all. In fact, I remember playing in Eric's yard before the house was built, playing in these huge cattails. What had happened was I went to see my friend, who I always call my first friend, named Howard, who you're not in contact with him anymore, are you?
I talked to Howard maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
And it was kind of weird, but
yeah,
in case anyone's watching, we won't go into those details. Anyway, here's the key, by the way. That's Eric's mother right there, and that's the two of us when we were 4 years old playing animals. As you can see, Eric's mother was a biologist. She taught biology, actually specifically marine biologist. And
that's not true. She was a regular biologist.
Oh, she was. So anyway, she's just
and this is the classroom where she taught high school biology.
Exactly. And in fact, Eric Hatter is a teacher when he was in high school. Anyway, so she just keeps bringing out animals for us to play with. And Eric like grew up with them, so he was comfortable. As you can see, I was a little bit, a little bit uneasy with it. So anyhow, so we're at, I go to Howard's to go to play with my friend. And all of a sudden I go there, and there's this weird looking kid sitting on this pedestal. And I sat down beside him, hoping that I could ignore this kid that was sitting right by me. And he turns to me, and this is Eric, and he goes, "Would you play with me?" And I go, "No." And he goes, "Shame on you." And that was it. He said, "Shame on you." And I remember whenever he said "shame on me," I didn't even know what shame meant at that point. It was the first time I ever heard that phrase, "shame on you." And I just imagined him like pouring that silver stuff from Etch-a-Sketch. You know, that stuff that would go. I just imagined all that stuff getting thrown on me as that being shame. So ever since then, whenever I hear the term shame, I think of, tingly little silver stuff from Etch-a-Sketch. Anyway, so that was like our first meeting. Do you remember the next time we met?
I want to say it was at Howard's. It seems like all my memories are from there.
No, not Howard's. One thing I do have, Eric was always like pretty much, he came from a really intelligent family, very talented in music, drama, and all that stuff. So I always was really competitive with him. But he never competed with me because he always excelled much further in all the highest geometry classes and all those type of things. But the one thing I've always had better than him is a memory. Or either that, it's an imagination. But anyway, the next place was at the Rosenberg's house. They had a pool there. And at this point, I decided I liked Eric because Eric was something that I wasn't used to. He was incredibly mischievous. And is that the 5-minute cue?
When you stop talking, I was going to do it.
Oh, okay, that's fine. You can feel free to interrupt me at any point. So we're at 5 minutes, so we want to wrap up this section. But he was really mischievous, and I remember just being amazed that you did 3 bad things. He took the part of my pinwheel, the plastic. It used to be those pinwheels from the 60s that had the candy beads in them. He bit off the tip of the plastic and he spit it in the pool. And that was just really amazingly bad to me. He also found this cup out of the garbage can and he threw it down the steps. And he was just really bad. But I guess I kind of like that. I wasn't exposed to it. And I just remember your name was also really weird. I never heard that name, Eric. And I couldn't pronounce it. And I was really embarrassed that when I was just little, going to his front door and having to ask for this name I couldn't pronounce. So I had to ask for like baby or something like that. I didn't know what to say. Plus I was embarrassed by his father, who you saw up there for a little bit.
How old? You were 2 years old at that point.
No,
3
no,
years
I was
old?
3 or 4.
That's still a lot of memories for when you were 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah, no,
considering we're 30s now.
Exactly. So. But no, I had always known this story since I was little. Now we're going to move on at this point to a little bit older, and this is a story that Eric just confided in me this past December, something that he did when he was 8. And before we do that, can we get the picture of the owl up here? There's, they have it there. You see that owl? That owl, at one point, it was like either 69 or 70. Our family came home and we found it missing. Plus, the whole yard was turned upside down. And we really never knew who did that. One kid on the street, Howard, the same kid, who was like this good friend of Eric's. Well, he was actually 3 things. He was part good friend, 1/3 good friend, 1/3 bully, and 1/3 weird person. He used to run around the neighborhood yelling "Iaki," and no one really ever understood why. Sometimes you were led into this and other times not. Well, anyway, he said he saw 2 people in uniforms run around and knock over the owl, and they had this name tag of Joe and Jim. So this is all I ever knew about this owl. Anyway, so Eric, why don't you tell what you just told me back in December? And Doug, can you get a picture of Eric when he was 7 years old? That's the next frame. Go ahead.
just my part of it. So I
Yeah.
told you, I asked you to recall.
Yeah.
Now, what was my motivation for telling you? I don't recall. What
I
that
don't
was.
know. You have to. I don't remember your psychology. I remember you telling me, but I don't remember your motivation. I didn't read your mind, man.
The event might have just. Oh, I remember what it was, Mike. We were hanging out in your backyard, and in fact, that shot we saw of the owl,
Right.
we were hanging out there, and I remembered that incident,
Uh-huh.
and I wasn't sure if I had ever told you. So, and that's why I started telling you, and I told you that me and another boy from the neighborhood, Jeff
Don't
Russell.
mention names. Okay. We don't know where this person is living now, but anyway.
It doesn't. There's probably thousands
Uh-huh.
of them. And I said that me and this other boy, Jeff, had done the vandalism to the yard.
Yeah.
And so, what, it was how many years later?
It was 22 years.
22
lady.
years later, and
Yeah.
I finally tell Mike that it was me and one of the neighborhood boys
Look-
that vandalized the yard.
Look how innocent he looks there. This was the vandal. But tell me the story. You told me a little bit more about it. Like I asked you, why did you have this act of meanness towards my family? What did we do? And you, explain like how it came up, because that was kind of interesting. It's just this kid, like, tell me.
Well, he was sort of a ringleader, as you remember,
Yeah.
and he suggested the idea, hey, let's go just vandalize the yard. And I thought, oh, that sounds like a fun thing to do, without giving any thought to you or your family, to the consequences. And, of course, looking back on it, I felt horrible, but...
Did you look back and feel horrible right after it, or?
No, not quite right after, but then like in the years later, like when I saw the owl repaired and stuff.
What had happened, by the way, is we thought the owl was stolen at first, and then in the fall of 1969, we had somebody found it over the hill. And if you get real close, and I don't know, I try to get a video image of it, if we can see the crack repaired
There, I saw it.
in the owl. The owl broke off from the pedestal, and they tried to cement it back in, but it's really old, so it kind of blends in. Can you make it out? I can't see it from where I'm sitting.
I can't really see.
But anyway, around the base there is where it was cracked. But I actually learned the vocabulary word vandal or vandalism from this whole. I didn't know what that meant before, and I really imagined what Howard had said, which was Joe and Jim, like these professional vandals come in. It was like a career, like how there's professional burglars, there were professional vandals, and I learned that vocabulary word at that time. And I always think of these two big people coming around and tearing up our yard when I hear vandal, and then 22 years later, I find out it was my best friend who knocked it over, that he confessed. Well, anyway, what's really then funny is my older sister, Dee Dee, and we'll get a shot at Dee Dee, who's 10 years older. I'm telling her, Dee Dee, did you remember that owl? Eric finally told me he did it. Well, she turned to me and she goes, I got blamed for that. Because she was kind of hanging out with a wild crowd. She was like a senior in high school at that time. I remember they pelted our garage door, and one time she was babysitting us, and I just heard them running all over the ceiling. I was terrified, so it was her friends who got it. And little did they know, it was my 8-year-old friend who did it. So that has been the trend of Eric being somewhat mischievous, which we'll pick up a little bit later on. Can I get a time check of where we're at? How many minutes into the show are we? 13 minutes. Okay. I think we have a little bit time to talk. We're going to go away, and we're going to do this segment with Eric in junior high. Eric got in a fight, and I want him to tell the story, but to give some background, he actually didn't get in a fight. It was one of these really awkward situations. I don't know if they have this here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but we used to have the term say, I call you out. And what I call you out means I challenge you to a fight. But it doesn't mean they start fighting there. We can get rid of Dee Dee now. Dee Dee isn't in this part of the thing. She's, at this point in junior high, she's living in Washington, D.C., trying to make this big career in GSA. So she's no longer wearing a little bun in the back. But anyway. And Dee Dee's now irrelevant to these things. But anyway, so we'll get some shots of Eric in junior high. So they used to call you out. But if you wanted to go with a girl, you asked her out. But if you wanted to fight with a guy, you called them out. And it was just this formal thing, and it meant that you'd go out after school and fight. So why don't you tell us the story?
Well, it was sort of a strange thing. I don't even remember why Mark Amos chose me. I guess I was small. he was small, and so
He was smaller than you.
I was
though.
probably the next size up, so
Yeah.
he just chose me. We were in Coin Club together. I think that sort of happened, and so he called me out.
Actually, it was
and,
an algebra class. I remember hearing it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember during lunch, I remember talking to, some
Yeah.
of my friends about it, and the general consensus was, you have to show up at that fight or else people are going to,
Yeah.
say bad things about you. So I showed up at the fight, and there wasn't too big of a crowd there. Do you remember how many people
No, it was
were
a
there?
pretty big crowd. It
Was
was all
it?
the people who headed home that way that
Right.
showed up. It was by a church.
Plus, it was
Where-
during a week when a lot of fights seemed to be happening at the
I guess
school.
so. That detail I don't remember.
So anyway, Mark and I started fighting, and it wasn't much of a fight. There
No.
weren't many punches thrown. We were just sort of holding each other in headlocks, and
Right.
at one point, I think either he was on my back or I was on his back. And so then finally we just called it a draw.
Yeah. And I was part of the audience. What it was, these were like, you had to go to assemblies in junior high, which were always boring, but these were where the real performances happened, is when people fought, and you had to perform. And it was just horrible to see, like, my friend Eric, because both of us were basically wimps growing up. We wanted to avoid fighting. We wanted to remove ourselves in situations where we could get picked on. None of us really we didn't get picked on that heavily, but we were definitely part of the crowd.
Because we
who
were
picked
avoiding
on.
it.
We
Because we were
avoided
trying
it. So all of a sudden, he's in this public specter, and everyone was expecting a good fight. And I remember standing in the audience, because Eric and I used to walk home together, and feeling so embarrassed, and not embarrassed for him, but that feeling of like empathy of like, God, I'd hate to be there, and people expecting a fight, and all he was doing was just blocking punches. It was like a poor school play is what it was. It was just a really weird situation. And the other thing about walking back and forth to school with Eric, I was with him just recently. I think it was over the weekend. We were out in the Arb just walking with Craig because he was just up here. And I remember that walking to school, we'd walk for 25 minutes or so, a couple years to junior high. And this is one thing I remember. And when I go outside in this cold weather, I still get this image. Walking to school, maybe we can get a close-up of this too. Eric's nose would always have this little drop of snot. It wasn't snot, it was liquid kind, not the thick mucusy kind, but just a drop of like liquid that would just hang. And you just knew it was a certain time of year. It was like November or December or something like that. And I could gauge, it would be the barometer for me as like, how big that little drop of mucus off the tip of Eric's nose was. But that was just another memory of us growing up. And actually, we're making pretty good time. Is there anything else you want to add to the fight in junior high?
No, nothing to the fight, nothing about junior high.
Yeah.
What you said is correct. Basically, we were, the runts of the class, and we got picked on, and then we learned to avoid it. And,
Yeah.
and we came out pretty normal, I guess, considering the way some of our other classmates turned out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you consider this normal, getting up
Well.
then 5 minutes, another 5 minutes have gone by, or what's the time check? 20 minutes? Okay, it's about 20 minutes. Anyway, one of the things too that has happened, it's been really like kind of neat, because you have this childhood friend. Most people that you talk to do not have people that they've known since they're 3 years old, especially if they've moved out of their communities as they've grown up. I mean, it's a really kind of fluke thing that Eric decided to get his PhD in Ann Arbor, and I was living here. He went here as an undergrad too. And in fact, Eric's been on community access a couple times before. But one of the things that was real funny is like around the time when I was like between 20 and 23 or so, I used to like remember that, when I was a kid, I was always like sneaking into the high school after hours or going and discovering these really bizarre paths at sleepover camp and in our woods and everything. And I thought this was something I grew out of. Well, all of a sudden, Eric moves up here 4 years ago, and all of a sudden I'm discovering all these bizarre places around Ann Arbor, like that abandoned tennis court in Bursley Hall. Eric, how do you find all these places?
Oh, well, when I went here as an undergraduate, I was
Yeah.
sort of wild, and we would go ride our bikes. At one point, I had a motorcycle.
Yeah.
I would ride with people, so you would discover places.
But it was always your nature, that mischievous nature, to like kind of find power. I just see a
Probably.
street and I walk down it. I don't like see this little weird thing and feel I want to explore it. But that was always apart. By the way, one thing, can we get the chroma key now of when Maria came to visit us? Back in 1988, Maria came to visit us, and we're hanging out in Eric's office, and if you can roll that. See, I'm doing all the talking, Eric. Can you tell
I know. I don't know what to say. I thought you were gonna ask
I
more
know.
questions.
This usually happens. I get on the show and I just do all the talking. What can you tell us about your office from 4 years? Was that at U of M?
That was my office at U of M. I can relate a good anecdote about that. In fact, it has to do with Ann Arbor Community Access Television. Mike has all these videos of us from our friendship throughout the years. And in one of the videos, which has been shown, my grandmother's dying.
Yeah.
That
was shown a week ago, recently.
It's been shown a lot. It's been shown several times. In that video, which was filmed about 5 or 6 or...
In 85, 7 years ago.
I'm wearing, what, a wig?
Yeah.
And a dress?
Yeah, a skirt.
And so here I am, I'm in Ann Arbor, and I'm TAing a class. So that means that if one of the students in my class had turned on Ann Arbor Community Access during the time when my grandmother's dying was being broadcast, they would have seen their instructor in a wig and a dress. And so it would have been, and fortunately nobody had ever said that they saw me on Community Access in a wig and a dress, but it could have happened.
Yeah, yeah, so that's a risk if you do become friends with me. You don't know what does get put on. That is kind of funny. Another thing to say of Just Unseen Paths is I recently, like a year ago, I heard like in the apartment complex that I live in, I heard these frogs croaking nearby. And at one point I finally got curious and I go, that sounds like there's a pond there, and I never knew there was a pond there. And I decided to go and investigate, and I saw it, and I was like, I've been living in this apartment complex for 4 years, and I finally saw it, but my God, there's a pond here. Actually, it turned out to be a swamp. Anyway, so I'm talking to, I'm making an audio cassette, a talking letter to my friend Craig, who you've seen on the show too before, and I'm mentioning to him that, this is really neat, that I feel like I'm like you and Eric, discovering places like this, and I'm trying to describe this whole thing. Well, a week later, Eric gets with me, and I go, Eric, let me show you where this pond is, and he goes, oh, I know that place is there. 3 years ago when Craig came up to visit, we discovered it. So, like, here I was living in this place 3 years, and the first week that Craig and Eric come to visit, they already know that it exists. So, anyway, boy, we have this...
21 minutes, he said.
Wow, is that it?
Yeah. Well,
when I think of anecdotes?
Yeah, think of another anecdote, so we have time. Because I do have, one of the things I was hoping to do, but it doesn't look like we broke down the rapport. Eric and I still have that same childish sense of humor that, I remember one time, being like 3 or 4, I put the Beach Boys on at 78, and we went in the living room and we just giggled at it hysterically. We can still do stuff like that. In fact, it's really funny. He's married now. We haven't mentioned that yet. And I'm also good friends with his wife, but we still, when I'm over there visiting, he can still get really giddy and silly and get on his wife's nerves. And it's just like we're like little kids, because when he would be real bad in front of his mother, and she would kind of get pissed off, and I didn't want to be caught laughing when she was mad. So the same thing happens, is like, he'll get on his wife's nerves, and I just want to be laughing out loud, because one of the things he does, and he hasn't lost his inhibitions, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but he does this funniest rendition of One Tin Soldier. In fact, he does this really funny singing in general of different types of musical comedies, and it just makes me laugh, but it gets on his wife Lisa's nerves a lot. So I on one hand, I want to really encourage him to do it, but on the other hand, I don't want to get on her bad song. So how do you look for One Tin Soldier?
Well, Mike, I mean, the thing is, who do I sing it around? My wife and my best friend. So that's...
Yeah, it's so...
And, and you've been trying for months now to get me to do this on camera. Oh, yeah. At first you wanted me to do it on your phone machine. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Mike wanted me to call up his phone machine. He thought I was too inhibited in person. He wanted me to call up his phone machine and sing One Tin Soldier into the phone. So I think that the studio of Ann Arbor Community Access is probably the last place I'd want to break down my inhibitions and burst out in a song.
Well, too bad. It might have worked.
But one anecdote that we can use to also relate is, do you remember what we used to do as little kids to make ourselves laugh? I'll give you a hint.
Smudgy face? Oh,
No, not that.
with crackers?
Not with crackers. Sometimes with crackers. What we used to do is we would be home after school around, and this would be in 4th grade or so. And I mean, talk about abusing my house. Eric would fill up his mouth with water. I'd fill up my mouth with water. And the challenge is you try to make the other person laugh until they spit out the water. And it didn't matter where we spit it out either. We just spit it out wherever. And I can't remember some of the things we used to do, but they used to get like really outrageous. Like, well, this I won't say on the air, but remember the plum? Mike, remember the plum? That was a joke.
See, those are in-house jokes.
Yeah, so anyway. And I guess, we can pretty much, do you have any other anecdotes you want to relate, Eric?
I wish I'd thought of some. You gave me the impression that these things take long.
I know.
I wasn't
It's
prepared for this show. I thought you'd have
Yeah, I
more to
thought
talk
so
about.
too.
Unless you can think of something.
It's 25 minutes.
5
Well,
more
maybe we'll
minutes.
come up with another little anecdote. But the one thing I want to say just about this is, originally I was planning to do this show with Eric just to do a show, but now it's like kind of this show because it's like he just gave everyone in town the news that he's moving to Rhode Island. He got his PhD, so now, it's time for him to move on, and there really isn't that much employment for him around the Great Lakes. He is an oceanographer, and it's like a really sad thing, because here it's this neat thing to have this friend that you grew up with living in Ann Arbor. I mean, he's a hermit, and so he hasn't really met any of the friends I've met while I've been up here or anything of that. He just pretty much keeps to himself, which is fine. But it's been real nice to, have like this friend you've known all your life that, you feel like, just go over there on a Sunday to hang out or to ride bikes and discover these places that I never knew existed in Ann Arbor like I did as a little kid. And now it's like sad that it was like this kind of neat gift, I don't want to sound queer, but you know what I'm saying. Just this neat thing of having your close friend live here for 4 years, and then all of a sudden it's like it's gone. And I don't know, he doesn't write either, so I don't. This may be it. This may be the end of the 22-year-old thing where now we have to call, and it's like all it is another long distance phone friendship. So, but I'm sure we'll keep in touch because I'm also good friends with Lisa. But I don't even know if we would still have been close after this year because, Jim, who's been another friend of ours, isn't, I mean, I've really lost contact with him at this point, so hopefully that doesn't happen.
Plus, maybe you can be friends with Lisa's brother.
Yeah, Doug's here
Doug.
tonight. Yeah, maybe we'll have Doug on the show, and
And he
that
can do a
might
show.
keep it, yeah.
You have to start collecting footage with Doug. now.
Right, and have him on a show. That's a good idea, Eric. Did you think of another good anecdote? What's the...
Boy, Mike, it's awfully hard to talk and think of stories at the same time.
Yeah, too bad we didn't. But we've shared many, many friends, many jokes, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Except there was a little point where I did feel alienated, and that's when you were with Loretta. Loretta was his first girlfriend, and he got real serious then. Never joked. Didn't really ever have fun and everything, but that was it.
I was discovering things.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was one of the few of us who did discover those things, too.
At an early age.
Actually, it's the average age. The rest of us were late bloomers. It's just it was early for the rest of us. So I guess with that, we might as well wrap up the show. I'm sorry I did all the talking.
Okay, sorry, Mike. That's
usually the case. No, when we're together, you can be really quite entertaining sometimes. So anyway, well, I guess with that, why don't we roll Betty? Now you have to say who's Betty.
Who's Betty? I know,
Betty's
though.
yeah.
But of course I know.
I know, but that's what Kathy said. Roll Betty, roll Betty.
Sailing on sound waves through the air in all directions. Through the air, what comes around goes around right back at ya. Comes around, goes around right back. Hey, hey, hello.
Okay. Oh, did he let it? Ask him. Hey, Doug. Hey, can you ask if the tape is? I'm putting these two shows after another show. Did he let the tape run? I know a lot of times he'll just hit record and it's running for a while. Did he just start it, or has it been running for like 20 minutes, or? Yeah, how long? How long did he just start recording, or did he start recording a while ago? Okay, just a moment ago. Okay. Oh wait, can we get the door? Okay.
Hey, hey, hello, echo, hey, hello.
My name is Mike Brostoff. I was born the youngest of 4 kids. When I was very young, I received attention unconditionally. Even if I didn't want it, I got it. Consequently, I developed unrealistic expectations of the rest of the world. I was the kid in class who asked a million questions and who always wanted to share every cognition about the material. I always was jealous anytime someone received more attention than myself. If someone didn't give me the attention I expected, then I considered it a rejection. Finally, at the age of 30, I realized I would never get the attention from the rest of the world that I was looking for. So in order to satiate my appetite, I've decided to host my own show on Community Access, where for an hour or half hour, a couple times a month, I am the center of attention.
You know, like I just feel like as it gets closer to the end, I'm like, it's got.
Something's wrong with the CG.
Okay, there, they got it.
Hey, hey, hello, echo, hey, hello.
My name is Mike Brostoff. I was born the youngest of 4 kids. When I was very young, I received attention unconditionally. Even if I didn't want it, I got it. Consequently, I developed unrealistic expectations of the rest of the world. I was the kid in class who asked a million questions and who always wanted to share every cognition about the material. I always was jealous anytime someone received more attention than myself. If someone didn't give me the attention I expected, then I considered it a rejection. Finally, at the age of 30, I realized I would never get the attention from the rest of the world that I was looking for. So in order to satiate my appetite, I've decided to host my own show on Community Access, where for an hour or half hour, a couple times a month, I am the center of attention.
Hi, welcome to the Center of Attention, and I am Mike Brasso.